Going to give the people that don't want to stay for the annual meeting, they'll give them the opportunity to leave and make sure that everybody has a ballot, either the blue one or the green one. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I get to do this once a year, is dust off my suit. But I figured out, Luann and I have been married for 26 years, and I figured out a long time ago that if I want a white shirt ironed, guess who's doing it? I haven't... So this morning I was ironing my white shirt and dusted off my suit. So we're going to give the people a few more minutes. Did everyone get the agenda? And then there's actually a reprint. Okay. Dave Matson just went to get those. He'll bring those up in just a second. Okay, if all the members have a blue ballot and a yellow ballot, everybody got that? Okay. If you'll raise your hand again if you want an annual report. Okay, while he's finishing handing those out, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Pastor Allen, would you share up here with us and start us out with a prayer?
Let's pray together. Let's ask God to be in this place, continuing to be in this place. And let's ask Him to guide us today as we try to do things decently and in order. Let's pray together. Father, You are so good. We thank You so much for the opportunity that we have to be part of Your church, and especially a part of a local church. And Lord, while I'm not a member of this church and don't have any of those voting privileges or anything, I'm a part of the big church at whole, at large. And Lord, I just thank You for each member of Venice Bible Church today, and I thank You for their elders. I thank You for Bob today and for his leadership in this place. And for those that will come and make presentations, I pray that You will give them wisdom and words. Help us to listen with clarity, and help us to honor You with what we say, the questions that we ask. Lord, I pray that all will be done decently and in order, and that we'll honor You. Even, Father, if we disagree, that we'll honor You. Father, I pray today that You would be at the center of this discussion and at this annual business meeting. And Lord, help us to be careful to give You the glory, the honor, the praise, all of that You are due. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, for the purposes of quorum, we need to establish quorum. So if you're a member of this of the voting body, if you please raise your hand. Okay, Dave Matson, can you help me count? 39, 29, and 61 is 18, 19. Get my math out going here. Okay, Sheila, did you get the total? It's 29, 39, 29, and 61. Okay. Okay. And then, okay, and for the purposes of established quorum, we need 56. So the quorum is here. So if you look at the agenda, the presentation for approval for elder chairman and treasurer, if you look at the yellow card here, what's happened is Jerry Henderson, who served us faithfully for several years as treasurer, is asked to step out of that lead position. He's going to stay on. He loves doing these spreadsheets, so he's going to help us out there. But he feels like that we really need a treasurer that's here full time. So we've contacted Deborah Good. Is Deborah? If you'd stand, please, so everybody can see you. Deborah has graciously volunteered to be our treasurer. She's currently a senior vice president at Bank of America. Vice president, I'm sorry. And so she's going to take over and help us on the admin team. And then I was nominated by the elders to chair this year. And then you actually have the budget that's on there as well. The other ballot is for some bylaw revisions. We're going to open that up for questions after the presentation of the budget. But there's two bylaw revisions that the elders are recommending. One deals with the number of elders, that's the minimum number that serve, and the other is to serve as our modifying what it requires to be a member, is the training part of it. So at this time, I'll turn the mic over to Jerry Henderson, and he'll present the annual budget.
He said, I like spreadsheets. That is true. But I do not like standing up here and telling you all about them. That's not one of my favorite things. Let me see if I can. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I guess that's all that counts. Oh, this isn't going to work. Is that pointed at me? Well, I tested it beforehand, and it worked perfect, and it's not going to do it now. No, it's supposed to advance the slide for me. Yeah, is it pointed at me? No. Well, so much for pre-planning. I guess I'm going to need your assistance. It's just the front arrow, and I on occasion may ask you to do a back arrow. Let's see if this will work. Wow, I must have dead batteries. Do you have any AAA batteries by any chance? Well, anyhow, let's go to the next slide, please. This is going to take a little longer. I planned only 2 minutes per slide, and I have like 39 slides, so it might take a little longer. Yeah, AAAs, and I hope they work. I put brand new ones in today. This is the annual business meeting. Let's try the next slide. There you go. There you go. Okay. Boy, I can hardly read that. Of course, this is closer. This is just the admin team. The next slide, please. Let's see, it would be nice, easier if I can just go click. And the next one, please. Okay. The financial condition is really based upon December 31st. And we are at the financial condition on December 31st called concerned. Most of the year we were at guarded, but we slipped in the last couple of months to concerned. I don't know if you can see that well. I got it here, but can you read the? Well, it's in your handout. The reason that we're concerned is primarily because our giving has been way down last year. We have, as you can see up there, we had budgeted $136,000, almost $137,000 cash on hand, and we really only have $75,000. So we're short by about $62,000. And I don't even, personally, as former treasurer, I guess I'm treasurer until you finish the vote, as treasurer, I never really look at that line anyhow, because there's allocated funds, and the allocated funds are funds that we can't spend to keep the operation of the church going. So I look at the net cash available, which is, we had budgeted for $93,000, and we have only $50,000. We're basically $43,000 under what we expected to have at the end of the year. And the problem with that, it's half of what we originally budgeted. That's a severe drop. And we're most concerned because if that number gets below 40,000, that's a bad spot for us. We normally, as a admin team, consider $40,000 as the amount that we would like to have going into the summer. End of year, well, the biggest thing on the end of year I would show, in fact, I guess I can't. Oh, they got it. Is the more than $1,000 per week deficit in our giving. That's what caused the big loss. Does it work now? We lost it. It won't work until you bring it up for me. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves. Well, there's a saying, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong at the worst possible moment. Let me just, I'll probably skip a couple of these anyhow. The financial status, we have 7 financial statuses at the church, and the reason we put them together is it's a one word that basically tells everybody where we stand, because there's a little bit of a sentence that goes with it, but we use one word. There are 3 what I call good ones, starting at excellent, and then very good, and then adequate. We haven't been in adequate in quite some time. The real financial statuses that we've been in or concern ourselves about are the ones that have been negative. The highest negative is guarded, where we have been most of the year. And guarded, the definition is, current giving does not meet current expenditures, but savings account funds will cover the shortfall. That's where we've been most of the time. The last couple months, we slipped into concerned. Giving does not meet current expenditures, and the savings will be depleted within 4 weeks at current shortfall rate. We've been there, or actually almost down to critical at one point. But critical and crisis are the 2 bottom ones. Is it up? Okay. Just double click on the icon and it'll work. Let me go, continuing on, isn't it interesting? I'm sure you'll have questions on those slides. I'm going to talk next about the income and expenses for 2013 as part of the financial report for 2013. The big, well, you really need to see it. That's the problem. Everybody have a financial report? It's the blue binder, yeah. Okay. It's coming up. We're rebooting. Stretch it out. Do a dance? I don't know how. I don't know how to dance. No? I can't tell jokes because if I think they're funny, I laugh halfway through them, and most of them aren't funny anyhow. I'm just not a joke teller. You know, there's some things I'm good at. Give me some numbers, I'll make them work. But telling a joke and standing up here is not my forte. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, in fact, we're going to try something else.
Okay. What we're going to do is kind of switch gears then and talk about the, first of all, let's see, the elder chair and the treasurer positions. Okay. Are there any questions or comments about that? Yes, Ann? I was elder chair year before last, and then when Bob Krotz resigned, I was the vice chair, and so I stepped in after Bob left, and that was July, I'm thinking, August, and then I've kind of served in the interim for that position. You're welcome. The question was, how long have I been an elder chair? Any other questions or comments? Okay. Then what I'll do is on the blue ballot, I'll open the floor up for questions on the elder board revision. Any questions? Okay, on the, oh, yes. What has happened is, if you look at the annual report, we have an admin team. The admin team is growing. We actually have 5 full-time people that serve on the admin team. There's 3 snowbirds that serve on the admin team, Jerry, Jim Monkern, and Sherry Johnson. What's happening is the elders are shifting the day-to-day operation and the budgets and who does what and the septic system and all of those money things to the admin team. And what the elders are going to do is they're going to guide the church. We're praying on the mission of the church is to build disciples. So we're going to work with those small groups, those leaders. We're going to pray about the congregation. We're going to do the shepherding part instead of the day-to-day nitty-gritty things. So what's happening is we're seeing that if we're getting more talent over here, then the elders, because of the size of the congregation, and we've built a really good team that we trust each other, that we can kind of decrease this because we're raising up the day-to-day. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Being a member.
Okay, that's a good question. Kathy McKellar has asked if there's going to be some accountability as far as the DVD. Billy, did you want to answer that? Sure.
That's a great question, Kathy. And the intent or the idea that we're having, and I'm going to be teaching that class after the discipleship class. If you want to be a member, you'll be given a packet, but you'll also be given sort of a mentor leader that is a member that's going to follow you through that packet. And there will be a number of questions and answers, almost not like a test, but it's like, did you really go through this? And let's talk about that. So it's not just, here, take this, sign it, and you're a member. There's going to be someone who's sort of accountable that's going to help you walk through that if you do have questions. And then when you finish, then there's going to be a good, hour, 2-hour dialogue that's going to take place to make sure that you understand the what it means to be a member of Venice Bible Church. Yes, Pete. Yes, this is for scheduling. This doesn't mean that we're never going to have a new members class. This just says there's just some very difficult scheduling that can take place that for some that are difficult to get to this class, whether they're worshiping or they're serving or so forth, there's another vehicle at which to disseminate the information to allow membership to occur.
The way that the DVDs have come to being is that Kay Berta has actually videotaped each of the presentations in the class that her and Al has led as far as membership. So it's all recorded. And that way, each of the person that's going through the membership class can get all of that information. The part that they're missing is being able to ask questions after they see that, and we're going to spend time with those people and make sure that they've got all their questions answered. But to answer Pete, his question was, is we're going to do away with the class, and it's no, we're not doing away with the class. This is in supplemental to the class for those people that can't attend. Jerry?
Two things. Peggy, for your question about the amount of elders, and I've had someone else ask that. This is just saying we're going to have a minimum of 5 elders. As we grow and have need, right now we have 6 elders. When we have a pastor come in, we will have 7, all right? That's just a minimum. That's just keeping us legal. Right now we really have 6, and it's supposed to say 7, all right? So what we're trying to do is to accommodate the bylaws, to make sure that we're where we're supposed to be, but it by no means limits it to 5. We can have more, all right? It's a minimum of 5, not it has to be 5, all right? And, you know, I think that was a good point. And as far as membership, you know, there are people who have come up to us at different times and say, I want to become a member. When can I become a member? Well, we don't have a class scheduled till next fall or whatever. This is going to accommodate people who can't wait to that time or who really desire to be a member. You know, they can, what we're going to do is sit down with them in the beginning and go over different things, give them these things where they can see them. They can ask us any questions they have. Then we're going to sit down and go over everything with them to make sure that they understand exactly where we are as a church. Okay? If that answers it a little better.
Okay. Any other questions on either the elder board or the membership class? Hang on for just a second. We'll bring you a microphone. Okay, Marie?
Thank
Marie
you.
Barnes?
I appreciate what Jerry just said about the elders, that it was a minimum. It can be more. Instead of changing our bylaw, why couldn't we just add an amendment to it that if the membership drops below a certain number, then the eldership could work with 5 instead of 7. And then as membership grows, this makes me feel comfortable that it will be open to others who want to be elders, but look at it and say, well, there's no need to even try to go for eldership, even if I feel led by the Lord, because it says only 5. If we just do an amendment to it, I don't like changing, you know, on the bylaws, but I don't mind adding amendment based on our number of members in the church. But I plan to be here and watch this church explode again, and I'd like to know that the bylaws were still there
Okay.
as they were originally.
Again, this is just changing the minimum. One of the goals that the elder board has is to recruit and train up 2 new elders for next year. So at least 2. Yeah, we could. I mean, we could do 5. So the problem is we kind of got caught in this little thing right here. And so we're just asking to change it, and then we'll go from there. Any other questions? Yes, Cliff, hang on. We'll bring you a microphone. Clint Harris. This. You didn't do your hair today.
It's pertaining to the minimum on it, so I'll just wait. Okay.
Yeah, these are just questions that pertain to the ballot on this. Okay, if there's no further questions, then we'll call the vote on this, and we'll vote on it in just a moment. Sure. Go ahead and mark your ballots on the blue ballot here, or green, or if you're a non-member. And the slides are back up, so I'll turn the floor over to Jerry.
Oh, thank you, because I couldn't see that. Thank you. There went part of my 39-slide presentation, right? Oh, See if it'll move by hitting the arrows. No? Give me a second. All right. These are the three positive financial definition status, and these are the four that are negative, more negative. And here's where we were. Okay. The biggest thing on this slide is, well, number one, you can see how far down our giving is for last year. There was a concern about the $1,200 that was budgeted from the endowment fund as income last year and was not taken. And why not? The admin team for the first time last year budgeted $1,200 to be taken from the endowment fund to help with our budget, but it was scheduled for July. That's where we put it in when July is our slow month, starts the summer where we have lower income, lower giving. And what happened is in the spring, we found that we needed to replace a septic system. And if we took the money out of the endowment fund for the operations, we would not be able to borrow from that money from the endowment fund in case we need it for the septic system, which was one of our primary plans and still is. So we did not take it out of last year's funds for giving. Oh. Thank you. We went too far. Okay, that's where we were. There's where we want to be. Okay, let me catch up with my stuff. I'm just going to go through these quickly because you've had them in the annual report, hopefully for a week now. I will say that the only thing worth mentioning is that, oh, did I? Okay. Is the minus 28. We were $28 over budget in the ministry fund. Is that staff? That was you? Oh, go back one, please. Thank you. I'm glad you're doing that. Thank you. There's not much that I would mention here, I don't think. Just the fact that the staff account was under budget by 10,000, almost 10,500. Missions was over budget by about 3,100, and the primary reason there is not as much was collected for the mission trip as was expected, and the operations was over budget by $1,336. Next one, please. Good. Facilities, there's not much I can say here except you'll notice the unforeseen and unavoidable expenses of $7,000. If you subtract that from the overage, you would actually find that we were under budget in facilities. And that is from a volunteer to paint this sanctuary, and but of course, the whole place, I'm sorry, the whole building. And we had to buy the paint. Gee, couldn't supply the paint too? Being facetious, please. Volunteer did it, we bought the paint, and the other portion was, the sidewalk was cracked or having a problem out here, and someone tripped actually and fell. And so we had to have that redone. And between the two, that was $6,000 of that $7,100. If we didn't have those two, we would have definitely been under budget in facilities. We added a new account this year, but you see that there's nothing budgeted last year or spent for reserves, but you will see it in this year's budget. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. That's just a header. I've also included in the slides the non-budgeted items. These are items that people give money for a specific reason, and then we spend the money for that reason. It's really allocated funds. And any that's left over at the end of the year for that particular item or area, we put into the savings account. Well, this year we had $90,000 come in non-budgeted income, primarily in missions, if you'll notice, body life, and the facilities income, which basically that facilities income is the septic project. And there were almost $29,000 of that $32,000 was for the septic system. Next slide, please. I'm not used to saying that. Non-budgeted income, you will see again that we had expenses of $99,000. We only brought in $90,000, so there was $9,000 had to come someplace. That came out of the savings account for those particular areas, namely youth and missions primarily. Body Life Treasury, but that's a wash. We make that a wash. But of that $25,000, it's almost all of that money was for the septic system that we've spent. I don't think it's quite that high, but it's pretty close. Next slide, please. On this one, this is a breakdown of all of the cash and how it is allocated. And you can see man, this thing is, oh, there it is. You can see that we have accounts for both savings and then the land and capital improvements, body life, youth, missions. The one that I look at is this $48,000. Actually, it's $48,000 plus the $2,800 that make up the cash available for running the operation. The rest of it is designated. And that's what's low, and that's what scares some of us who are on the admin team, because it needs to be above $40,000 before the summer. And if our giving drops off, it's not going to make that. Another thing I'd like to point out, these were yellow whenever they look gold here. There's one mistake that I found in the document. That date on the beginning balance is in your document is September 30th, 2013, and it really should have been changed because it was January 1st. The other change is I called the Gulf Coast Community Foundation and got updated numbers, and these are the December 31st numbers. So those numbers will be slightly different than the ones you have in the book. But that's the endowment fund information. Next slide, please. And the next slide. Oh boy, these are the ones I'm supposed to be able to have control over because I need to. All right. The proposed budget you're about to vote on is $486,000. Next slide. Which is $65,000 or 11.8% less than the 2013 budget. Next slide. And it's really $10,695 less than the 2013 actual general fund giving. So it's a vastly reduced budget. Next slide. Can you even see that? Okay, good. I can't see it because I'm looking at a smaller screen back there. This is the budget itself, and I don't have really anything much to say on it unless there's going to be questions later. Next slide, please. Let me see if I have any notes. No. Yeah, I talked about that. Next slide, please. And next slide. Any questions? By the way, we are going to have after we get questions on this, we're going to talk more about the septic system in a little more detail. Okay, you didn't know that. Any questions on the budget?
So the proposed budget for children's ministry last year was $5,600. This year they're proposing $2,000, a reduction of 64%.
That's correct.
Okay. The elders have voted that 64% reduction is, that they're going to be able to get by on that?
Let me explain the process. When we set up to develop the budget, we used a modified zero-based budgeting approach. And the first thing you do in a zero-based budgeting approach is establish how much you think your income, your giving, will be the next year. The next thing you do is you take operations and facilities, which are pretty much fixed cost, and the admin team develops a budget pretty much based upon history and what we have known, what we've been told will be rate increases. Because that's basically what it is. You're buying services from people, utilities, etc. And then the next thing we do is ask the elders to give us information about staffing. What do they want us to do? And then we would develop a staffing budget. That, and if you remember, well, you probably don't because I probably didn't say it. There's 5 areas of the budget. There's really 6 this year. We've got ministry, we've got missions, we've got staff, we've got operations and facilities. So we also determine the amount that will be given to missions. And in this case, this year, it's the same this year as it was last year. And then anything that's left over, only, missions and ministry were left over after doing the others. In ministry and missions, we do a zero-based budgeting system where they make out what's called decision data sheets, rank them, then we get together with the elders and we merge those into one long list. And then the amount of money that's left over for that area, there's a line that's drawn. Everything above it gets funded, everything below it gets held unless we get more money. And some of the DDSs that fell in the children's area fell below the line. And that's how it worked out. And yes, the elders, the process is the admin team develops a budget. They submit that budget to the elders for what I call endorsement, because our bylaws say they can't change it. They can only send it back for the admin team to make changes. Of course, they would give instructions if they did that. That only has occurred once since I've been here. And so they see it and, in effect, endorse or accept it to be presented by the admin team to the church. So yes, they have seen it. Question?
I want to follow up with that. We've let Casey go, so we do not have a children's minister, children's director, or anything. So is that all coming volunteer from us? And I understand that, but that's part of the I mean, we've not taken anything away. I look at our church. Our children are important. They're our today. And we're pulling more money away from trying to minister to them. We've got missions, and I know we've supported them forever. But if we don't take care of our own family here in our church, how can we take care of others outside?
It's a good question, Max, and I appreciate your question. The elders prayed on this for a long time, and this decision was not easy. There was a lot of different things that we had to take into consideration. But what's happened since Casey's left is there's been at least 4 people have stepped up. Kathy McKellar is going to in charge of the nursery. Is that correct? And then Clint Harris is taking over Awanas that he's been doing. There's Kevin Hander is going to kind of oversee that ministry and kind of help coordinate. And then Debbie in the office is also going to help coordinate that. So we're trying our best to cover all of the things that the vacuum that is lost there. So if you see a particular area that needs our attention, please bring it to us. Does that answer your question? Okay.
In addition, someone has volunteered to pick up some of the expenses in the children's ministry area. So it's really more than $2,000. That's what we've budgeted to spend. But there's other areas that have already been, if you will, pre-funded as a non-budgeted giving.
The children's ministry, if you really go back, needs this and volunteers, okay? I understand the budget, and I'm sure that, this, it's really hard for me to say, but if we get the kids there and we get volunteers and we have this in our hand, we're going to be good. We're going to be good.
Any other questions on the finance?
Chair recognizes Ann Ross.
Does that mean you want me to stand up too, since you officially recognized me? My question is on the staffing budget. Obviously, we have let Casey go, and we're very sad about that. You got it. Is that better? All right. So the staffing budget does not include the capacity this coming year to hire another children's director, correct? Okay. And right now, we're paying an interim pastor. I'm assuming a portion of that is what we've allocated for the new pastor that we're anticipating bringing in, is already in this budget?
Yes, we are budgeted for 8 months of interim pastor at,
Okay.
at his
yet,
pay.
there's still a $60,000, maybe my math is wrong, it might be an $80,000 reduction from last year. So I guess my simple mind is saying 4 months of a senior pastor salary plus the children's director salary is what that deficit is. Am I reading into that correctly? Because we don't get to see the specifics of the staffing and
That's-
why there would be an $80,000 reduction there.
Pretty much that's relatively accurate. There are benefits and things of that nature that are also part of it. The benefits, really the benefits wind up being eaten up by health insurance increases. We were instructed to budget 25% increase for health insurance.
Actually, there wasn't one staff position that wasn't affected in a cut one way or the other. So it wasn't just Casey, but there were either hours that were reduced or there were benefits that are now contribute to, but every staff member actually had some sort of a cut that's in there.
Any other questions?
Michelle Booth. Hang on.
My understanding is that our interim pastor is not getting paid the amount that a regular pastor would be paid. So you're going to see a difference there.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Then we'll move on to, okay.
It was said that Jerry Smith volunteered to do the painting, and I think that we owe him a big round of applause and thank you. I don't know who else helped him, but thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Billy's going to.
I'm so sorry. But the children's pastor was probably one of the most difficult decisions that had made as an elder for a long time, because I love Casey absolutely very dearly. And we knew it was going to affect that, a life, a body, a member. There's a philosophy, there's a shift that is going to be taking place at Venice Bible Church. And that shift is that every member, if you call yourself a member of Venice Bible Church, so there is an expectation that you're going to serve the body so that the body gets built up. There's not a 80%, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. There's going to be a shift, that there's an expectation that if you call yourself a member of Venice Bible Church, there is an expectation that you are going to serve this body for the glory of God. Now, for some people, that's going to be stretching out. You're going to have to change your agenda. You have to change your calendar. But it is worth it, and we're called by God to do that. There is a number of folks that are gifted, absolutely gifted, to teach children, to watch children, to minister to children. This was not about Casey as a director. It was about a direction at which the elders believe Venice Bible Church needs to move. And it is the area that everybody needs to minister to the body, for the body, so it gets built up. Do I love children? Absolutely. And just because we say we are not going to finance ministry in this area doesn't mean that we are not going to focus and do an excellent, phenomenal job in leading those children. And just the fact of some people that have stepped up, and not only stepped up, but stepping up with the purpose of replacing yourself. If you're in the Sunday school class, you would understand what we talked about. It's I get to teach the children again. But for 2 years, I taught the children and trained no one. That was disobedience on my part. I trained no one. And there's already 3 people that said, I would love to be able to teach the children. Can you train me? And I'm not only going to train that person, which, oh, by the way, my sister Michelle raises up her hand and says, I want to be trained. But we're going to train Michelle to what? Train others. I grew tremendously through the ability of teaching the children for a couple years. I grew a lot through that. That was a growing experience. Clint, have you grown with the experience of teaching the children at Awanas? Absolutely. I'm watching it. I see it. And that's what we're hoping everybody in this body gets to do. They get to continue to grow and serve the body. That is the start of the disciple shift that is going to be taking place. You're going to be learning more about. This is our body. It is not a paid pastor's body, a paid minister's body, a paid person's body. The giftedness out here is huge, absolutely huge. Now the question is, are we going to step out and be willing to serve in our area of giftedness for the body? So, yes, it was a financial, it was a financial decision. But I believe God is bringing us to a point of financial decision to make proper spiritual decisions on how the body is built up and what we as members are supposed to do and what we as members are not supposed to do. So there was a drive that was financial, but a lot of it was spiritual also. So I thought I wanted to share that.
Thank you. Mary?
Just for clarification, in Billy's explanation, he referred to Casey as a pastor, and I just wondered if that's really what he meant, because I didn't. Okay. Okay, because that was the term that was used, and I wanted to make sure I understood.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Serge?
This question takes Billy out of what I'm about to say. You were saying that people are going to train people that teach the kids. Who are those people that are going to train the kids? Train the people to teach the kids? Because I'm under the impression that the elders are supposed to do that.
Yeah, this month Billy is actually teaching leading the children's worship. Next month is Cliff Myberg, and in March I'm going to do it. And then what happens is the people that we're training to do that will step up, or we'll take another month. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I would just wanted to be clarified because in a year and 8 months since Casey's been a children's minister, I don't really attend Sunday to Sunday because of my job. But every time I've attended and I've helped in the children's ministry, the only elder that I've seen was Billy. So just wondering if anybody besides him is going to train people. But thank you for answering my question.
Any other questions? Mike Gibson?
Just a quick question here. Reviewing the ministry budget. Last year, we only budgeted $55 for the Body Life Treasury. Now, my understanding was that was something that we were going to do as a body every month or every Sunday. Just out of curiosity, why are we budgeting $8,400 for the Body Life Treasury?
Okay. Jerry or?
I'm sorry, I meant to cover that when I went through those slides. There are people in the church that are getting assistance from Body Life Treasury to the tune of $600 a month. That's $7,200 a year right there. Last year, well, Body Life Treasury gets most of its money from the offerings that are taken once a month, the first Sunday of the month. That's non-budgeted money. We don't know if it's coming in. It varies greatly from month to month. So we budgeted enough to cover the individuals that need assistance to the tune of $600 a month, which leaves $1,200 left over, because with 84 minus 7,200. And that's less than we spent this year out of the general fund, including the money we took in. So that's why that number is so large.
Okay, does that answer your question, Mike? The elders have voted to support a couple of families that have a definite need in this body. The collections on Sunday morning were not at the level to support those people, plus all of the other regular needs that come up from time to time. So the elders have allocated part of the budget in order to support those families for the year or until they no longer need it. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I appreciate that, and I definitely do appreciate that noble position, and that is good. We definitely should take care of our body. Just out of curiosity, though, shouldn't that be something that falls under small group ministries? And just because the way I'm seeing these numbers, it appears to me that the ministries in the church, I mean, I don't know if there's a better place to put those funds or something along those lines. I'm certainly not a budget guy, but it appears that the ministries are taking a budget cut in order to pay for this. Now, again, I'll be very clear, I'm all for supporting people in our body. Can you help me understand that just a little bit clearer?
Well, it wouldn't fall under small group ministries, which of course still comes under the ministry budget anyhow, so if you moved it there, it would still be in the ministry section, because it doesn't get its information or expend the funds to small groups. That's why it would not fall under that.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Not a ministry that's budgeted, but for instance, in my small group, I know that if someone's in need, we rally around them and we try to support them. That doesn't come through the church. Just a question on that.
Well, yes, that's very noble, and we would hope that all small groups would do that. However, there are $600 per month that the elders have already approved to be expended out of VLT, and so that's why that number is there. That's why it's so large. Yeah, it's Billy saying some small groups just plain don't have the money either. Any other questions before we move on to the septic information? And that's...
No, I have no question. I need the mic.
Oh, it's not working?
It's about to die.
Okay. At this point, we'll turn the floor over to Brad. He'll bring us up to speed on the septic system. Oh, okay. At this point, we're going to call for a vote on the yellow ballot You'll be voting for the proposed budget, the elder chair, and the treasurer. Be sure to check if you're a member or non-member. Make sure that you've signed it and that your printed name is legible so that your vote can be counted. Gordon, can I give them the numbers that you've uncovered in the health care? Okay, those aren't, we haven't got that number yet? Okay. One of the things that we uncovered this year is because of some changes in healthcare laws, is we were able to go back into 2010, 11, and 12, and this year, and because we have paid for health insurance premiums or benefits for our employees, because we're a nonprofit organization, we've uncovered in the vicinity of $38,000 that the government is going to pay us back because of those expenses. Right now, we're still finalizing the 2013, so it may be a little bit higher or lower, but Gordon's best guess is about that. 2013's done? Okay. So it's going to be about $38,000 that we, as income that we did anticipate. The elders have voted to put that right here.
Okay. I am on? Okay, I just didn't hear myself. Okay, so I'm going to step you through where we are currently now with the septic project. This is the current plan for the project. And Gordon, I'm going to ask you to just advance the next slide because I may go back and forth. So the items that have been completed so far. This list, actually, I could probably give you 2 more whole slides since we've been working on this since April of last year. But right now, where we are, I was hoping that the Wisteria House would have already been demolished this week. What we've run into with the permitting process is in the demo process, the last person to sign off on it was an air quality. And he has told us we have to have a asbestos survey done. So he's come and take samples. He said he will get back to me sometime early this next week. Hopefully we do not have to have any what they would call abatement, which would be the removal. If we do, that is just a totally unexpected expense. The expense just for that survey is in the neighborhood of between $800 to $1,200. So that's just an added on part. But that's where we are now, is the inspection. So we're waiting for it to be returned from the lab. Then hopefully we'll get the permit awarded, and then we will demolish the Wisteria House. Next, we need to determine the exact location of the culvert drains that run through the parking lot that could affect the line that will run from just behind the sanctuary over to the Wisteria House field. Then we would prepare the ground site at the Wisteria House. There is a septic tank and a drain field that will need to be removed, pumped and crushed. We're going to have to remove some existing grade of material. They're going to have to bring in new grade. And all this is to show you, because Jerry asked me for a timeline to give you. I'm not giving you a timeline other than in the end I'll tell you what I approximately think how long this will take. I've asked the contractor to give me what his timeline and progression of what he would do. This isn't his, this is my understanding of how the project for the most part, will run. We have to install 2 tanks over there. One's a 2,200 gallon tank, another's a 1,200 gallon tank, and the drain field is approximately 32 feet by 42 feet. The next slide, please. So long list. I don't know if I need to read all through these, but okay. No, I don't. Part of this was to stall so we could count the votes. So I'm going to go through a couple of things with you. And again, this is not a total exhaustive list because there may be things that come up, but for the most part, we're going to have to run plumbing lines across the parking lot, electrical lines across the parking lot. There's another 750-gallon tank on the other side of the just this outside wall of the sanctuary. We've got to pull up all the exterior carpet, pavers. We've got to cut concrete all the way down from this hallway here all the way down there. That's got to be cut and dug and new lines run. The sanctuary carpet has to be pulled back. That's got to be coordinated with another contractor. We've got to remove probably the AC units over by the children's building. I guess I can read it up here so I'm facing you. But pointing there won't point there. We've got to pump and crush and remove 4 other septic tanks, install new lines from the back of the playground all the way to the front. As you can see, there's just a litany of things that need to be done. Then you have to go back and fill approximately 450 feet of all those lines, patch all the concrete, pull back and install the carpet if that carpet will reinstall. Otherwise, the whole foyer carpet has to be replaced. Refinish the grade of the Wisteria House location, put pavers back, finish the grade of the field, move sheds back. All that to say, and I don't think there's, well, the next slide will be finances, but don't go there. Okay, you're there. All that to say that my best guess is for all that to take place, it will take a minimum of probably 4 weeks to accomplish. We've been waiting to get started, obviously, with the demolition of the Wisteria House. The contractor told me 2 weeks in his first guess, but that wasn't, we've also been able to get one contractor to do almost the whole project, other than the carpeting, which saved us a good amount of money with the other plumbing portion that we thought we were going to have to get someone else to do. So that's going to increase his load. Being in some construction and that field, I know that that's going to take longer than 2 weeks. So I'm approximating 4 weeks. That's if any major unforeseens do not come up. Those of you in the building trade and stuff know that there are always unforeseens that come up. Hopefully they will only be minor. So about a month, potentially longer. The next slide. Any questions on any of that? Yes, Sue. No, they have to either be, yeah, I'm sorry. The question was, do the old septic tanks actually have to come out, or can they just be covered over? They either have to be crushed, so the tanks are concrete. So the old stuff in there has to be pumped out. It has to be crushed and then filled. It can't just be left an abandoned tank. In the Wisteria House location, it potentially is going to be in and around that drain field. So that one, they may not just crush it and remove it. I don't know exactly what he's going to do yet. But yes, they all have to be addressed, either pump, crushed, and filled, or just removed. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions about the...
Bradley?
Yes.
Sorry. Kate Berta, over here. What type of grade material will be installed in the main parking lot?
In the main parking lot. Most likely, depending upon how much is disturbed, I mean, obviously we're going to have to cut some pretty good sized trenches and dig those and fill those back in. So knowing that once that's done, there's obviously going to have to be some more work done to make it drivable. But we've talked about potentially rock, and talked with Clint about certain grades of rock. The actual site hasn't been determined. Clint, can you help me with that? Because I know we've talked about the potential of doing that. Now that you've walked in. Right there, turn around.
Clint, the question was about the grade material that we refinished the parking lot with.
Hello? Okay. My suggestion is to use a smaller septic stone, because I've used it in many driveways, as compared to the shells, because it lasts longer. You don't have to replenish all the time, and it gives it a better look to it. The only thing that we had against that possibly it might be a little difficult to walk on for some of our people here at the
Senior
church.
saints.
I didn't want to say senior. My lovely brothers and sisters in Christ. So that was really the only downfall, but I think, it's the same color, it's white, it runs the same price, and there's no replenishing. So as it compacts, it gives a real solid base. So that was my thought on it, to keep it low in price. So.
But there was also a smaller stone that you and I had talked about potentially.
Yeah,
to go
there's
down.
a 0.5 or something like that, a number 5 and a number 3 or something like that. It's all jargon that they use at the provider, at the landscape company. But it's just a smaller stone, but they call it septic stone. It looks good. I mean, it looks really good, and it's durable, and it's practical.
So an exact determination hasn't been made yet as far as exact material, but there will have to be something to cover. And whether we, budget-wise, have enough to do the whole main parking lot area, which would be nice, or just enough to cover what's been dug and disturbed. Any other questions? Chad? Chad, it doesn't record if you don't have the mic, and it needs to be recorded.
Clint, I agree that's a good choice. I only make one suggestion. If you put it on thin and bring in a roller and roll it down, you'd be surprised what the finish is. Roll it with an asphalt roller.
Great, thank you. Kevin?
How's this going to affect Sunday morning parking?
Are you talking about the material that's going down, or just the can you clarify?
No, just when they're doing the construction. Are we going to have to not use the parking
lot?
lot?
Well, that's going to be, I don't know the answer to that question yet. Hopefully timing with the contractor, we'll be able to dig up, cover, during the week so it doesn't affect the service. But there will obviously be times, and I didn't catch that one, but there will be times when we will have to have inspections done. So some things will potentially have to be left open. With the tie-in to the bathrooms here in the sanctuary, it could affect it to where there might be a Sunday where we might have to meet somewhere other than here, this location. Hopefully that won't happen, but it's a possibility. Sheila said she'd offered her house. Oh, Sharon's house. So I'm sure you probably had time now to kind of look this over. This is just an overview of either areas that we have already spent. We have already spent about $21,000 for the septic, and that is through the septic design. We had to have a survey done. We had to inspect all the plumbing pipes to know where some of them ended. We did not know. We've moved some sheds, and we've also given the contractor a deposit. And then the rest would be what we had some tree removal done at a greatly reduced cost. And so then there's the stuff that's left to do. So our estimated cost right now is around $1,000. Again, I mean, what did I say, 1,000? Woo! Man, $100,000. There are some, other potential costs. Don't know. The biggest one would be the asbestos abatement at this point. I have no idea even how to guess that. I've never had to deal with it. And then if there's any interference problems with those culverts that run out front. So, and I believe that's all for me.
Yeah, Bradley, I know you've spent a couple hours on this, maybe times 100. Operation management fee, is there a management fee on there? Is there anything, any fee for the supervision or managing of this project?
Yes, there has been some included in that. in as far as the, if you want to go back to the previous screen. Okay. I just included it in the septic contractor for the main. In that $60,000, there is some accounted for that. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thanks.
Working like a champ at the end, right? You can see we've got a $100,000 bill potentially, and Bradley just reduced it to 1,000, so I assume he's picking up the difference. But 100,000, we've had the income, some deposits. There were a few larger gifts, 5,000 or more, that came into a total of 25,000. So that's so far come in, and the remaining cash is about 71,000. It's possible, we have possible sources to cover the shortfall. We can borrow $25,000 from our bank savings account. Not a good idea. And borrow the remaining, I don't mean borrow from our savings account, use it, and borrow the remaining $46,000. And our endowment fund is set up in such a manner as we can use it as collateral for a loan. And since we would be borrowing it from ourselves, we would probably pay an interest rate of the standard rate that the endowment fund is designed for, and that's 6%. So if we borrow the money from our endowment fund, we need to pay it back, and we need to cover interest on it as well. And if we have to borrow it from others, I don't think the interest rate will be as low as 6%, primarily because we would be a high-risk loan because this is the reason why we can't get a line of credit. The banks are saying, we can't give you a line of credit because we can't foreclose on you because it would be bad publicity. So they don't give a line of credit. And I suppose if we were sitting in the banker's shoes, we would say the same thing. So, but at any rate, that's that's potential sources of income. Or we could ask members and attenders to pledge the funds to reduce the $71,000 shortfall, and then we will not have to borrow any funds at all. What do you think? Thank you, because that's where you come in. This is the pledge form. Everyone should have received one. If you didn't, please take one, maybe two if you want to fill them out twice. They were in the bulletin this morning. The key points here is this: we ask you to prayerfully consider what you can give. Go to God, ask Him to supply resources to you, and then decide with your family, what can you give? We hope it's a one-time gift, because that would make it better for us to evaluate. And if you say I can give $300, $100 a month, just scratch it out and put it on there. We need to know how it's coming in. That's the only reason for a pledge card. But this needs to be separate from your normal giving. If you're going to say, oh, I give $100, I think $50 I'll throw into the septic fund, don't do that. Don't fill out the card. Because what you're doing is taking away from our ministry budget to fund something that's really over and above the budget. So don't do that. Then all you have to do is, don't tell me it's going to go right when I need it. Click. Just fill in your name. Click. Put in the amount that you want to pledge. Click. And then the date in which you anticipate that your pledge will come in to us. We need this for planning purposes if we need to borrow money. Okay? Next one, please. Oh, stay there. Please. What are you laughing about? Oh, Bill Gates. Well, you didn't notice the first two. The first one was John Doe gave $500, and Jane Doe, his cousin, would never let John outdo her, so she put in $5,000. And Bill Gates, if one of you out there likes to compare yourself to Bill Gates, here's a good place for it. We do need to have this information back by next Sunday, because we need to put together our plan on how we're going to handle paying for this project. And once it starts, I think it's going to flow pretty fast. I think 4 weeks is probably a reasonable time, and we need to get the money all together in that period of time. Any questions? Vince? Yeah, we can't hold our breath on when that'll be here on time. Yeah. To be quite frank, that's what I'm counting on to pay back the loan. But the way I see it now, I'm sorry, I'm probably a realist that in the financial side errs on probably conservatism. I don't expect that we're going to get $71,000. And if I pray to God I'm wrong. And there are people here who tell me I am wrong. There are people out here, probably sitting in this audience, who are going to sit down and write a 4-digit check or more. And we appreciate that. And then that money that comes in from the government will be put in a reserve fund so we don't have to go through this again. I have been pushing for a reserve fund ever since I've been on the finance committee and the admin team. But every year, we just didn't have the money to set it up. This year, we're going to do it. We have to do it.
Jerry.
Any other questions? Yep. Yes.
Question. We need money. We have 27 acres sitting down south of here that we have done nothing with forever. Why do we not sell a portion of that property or sell it all to help us get out of where we're at right now?
Okay, that's a good question. I'd refer the answer to Jim Hart.
Okay. That's a great question, Max, because you're looking at numbers and you see a need. There were a number of boards over a multiple year process that thought about a need we had that was as pressing maybe as this one, because people attended when the service was 1,000 people and we had multiple services, and people literally coming to the church and circling around and had a place to park, and the boards sought God's direction. They prayed about it. They felt the need to, with wisdom they felt was from God, to find a future site that would potentially be able to serve the future needs of Venice Bible Church, a church that had been in business, been in operation for 40 years, and wanted to be able to impact ministry further in the future. And so over a number of years and working with them, they asked to locate places in Venice, and we categorized for every piece of property that was over 5 acres, and then they said that wasn't enough over 10 acres in the entire Venice area, did surveys of the body to determine where the drive times were and so forth, and came down from 40 to 30 to 20 to 10 to the top 3, and then made a selection on a piece of property that would be used for the future of Venice Bible Church. At that time, every one of those board members gave sacrificially to be able to come up with deposit monies, and other people came up with substantial monies to put down, and there was a loan. But then in the further wisdom, they decided, well, even though there wasn't an immediate need, it could potentially be deemed a drain on the body and be taking away from the monthly or yearly ministry. And so again, other boards embarked upon a mission to pay that entire mortgage off so that there is no cost to the body, and not draining from any ministry operations to have a future site selection for Venice Bible. It's hard to imagine that any of those people that gave sacrificially whatever would see the property being used to pay for maintenance items, but it might be. There's definitely going to be a challenge which can happen very quickly. Just for instance, when the merger took place, when the ideas came up and whatever, you can immediately find yourself back in, or I fully expect that Venice Bible Church would have that ability to minister to the needs or into the community and have a growth issue again. But there may be things in the future, and discussions have taken place combining with a Christian school or combining with other ministries are doing, or just the growth of the church, where that whole selection process, which can take years, would be a need. And it not be available or at a much higher cost. You're also talking about selling at a time in the economy when the prices are been, the economy is not as healthy. You're just on an economic basis, on the basis of planning and so forth. The elders would have to consider what to do, but I mean, it's a possibility, and I've given the elders a roadmap forward of what it would take if they decided to do that. But I will let you know you have a church that's already gone next door to the property as a neighbor, has built a facility, and they already have 20 acres, and they're asking potentially for other acreage and finding that even 20 acres isn't enough. And you don't know until you know what your use is going to be, how that property will be used, and if you're challenging yourself for future growth or future opportunities. So there are a lot of people that gave, a lot of people that still have a vision and understand that there was a real need, and it happened quickly. The growth took place very quickly, and we could be there again, and you could be paying a tremendous amount more for a potential property that would impact ministry and have loans that could impact ministry for many years to come. So I hope that decision as far as just selling is taken in perspective of what's been done historically and not just done for an annual budget need.
I understand that, Jim. Thank you for sharing that. The thing is, though, is from my understanding, when we got that, we're supposed to be using that property at least 5 or 6 times a year. We have not done that. Number 2, it's supposed to be kept mowed. We have not mowed it in how long? We don't have the money to pay to have somebody come in and mow it.
It's supposed to be used at least twice a year. The person that has been mowing it historically has been Bob Reynolds, has done it in the past, and he has done it when people have requested or had needs or done partial mowings and so forth, again, at no cost to the body. And there have been people that have been willing to pick that up to make sure that there wasn't going to be a cost to the body. So the argument that it's a drain on the church is not an accurate one.
I was questioning it. That's what I wanted to know. I've never been told that, so thank you.
Okay. Clint Harris.
I just want to ask a question because it's probably looming with many people. Are we in sin by not selling the property? Are we squandering God's blessing?
The quick answer to that would be no, because what happens is if we sell that asset to pay the short term, then we're going to be in another problem in just a little bit. So what we've done is we're reducing the budget. We're cutting back on expenses in the places that we can without doing anything with that asset. Because it doesn't make sense to sell that and say, okay, now we've got a cash cow, go ahead, spend everything we have for the next 4 years, and then what happens then? If the exponential growth that the elders are praying for happens and we need to expand, now we've sold our asset, we're in debt because our spending has gone nuts, and we're in worse shape than we are now. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
I would like to thank the elders and people who have put in so much time. These have been difficult decisions. And for years, we have run our budget higher than we needed to because the money did not come in. You can't do that in your own home. We can't do it in our church.
Thanks, Peg. As Jerry pointed out, $1,000 a week is what we brought in less than what we had budgeted for. $1,000 a week, that's substantial money. And so what we did is we said, okay, then we're not going to count on that. We're going to actually scale back a little bit more. And we're, as the admin team that I'm a part of, we look at it every month. We look at it. We look through everything. We tighten everything up. We're being as fiscally as responsible as possible in order to protect God's assets. Okay? Any other questions about the septic system? Okay. This has run a lot longer than I thought it would, so I'm going to skip the elder report. Does anybody have any questions on the pastoral report? Okay. How about the global mission? Any questions there? Okay. So then I'll move right ahead and announce the results of the votes. On the bylaws, the membership voted 109 to 19 to pass. On the class revision, they voted 121 to 4 for passing. The budget passed 109 to 10. Me as chair voted 103 to 5 as passed, and as Deborah Good as treasurer, 122 to 0. It says a lot for Deborah. Okay, Billy, would you join me up here?
Business meetings are not one of my favorite things to do as an elder, and I would like to give a little bit of. I think vision needs to be given during business meetings, and we as elders do believe that the best at Venice Bible Church is ahead of us. And have we enjoyed the pain, the trials, the processes that we have gone through and that we have led this body through? That is just, we have not enjoyed it at all, and has been extremely painful. But we are very hopeful for tomorrow. And the only reason why we're hopeful for tomorrow is because of what God is doing individually in some of the members that we see. We see some members that are starting to get excited about loving the lost. Okay? The purpose of the church, the purpose of Jesus coming was to seek and to save the lost. We have this little lifeboat there, right? Sometimes we get distracted and say, well, I'm comfortable. It's somebody else's job to seek and to save the lost. We believe that when we all understand as a body that it is our body, that is our job, whatever part that is, whether it's rowing, whether it's guiding, whether it's directing, whether it's seeing, that we're a part of that. We believe that one day that underneath those little steps right there, that little stoop, that is called a baptismal. Okay, that baptismal is used for baptizing new believers. That's what we were praying for, that baptismal is used every Sunday. I'm sorry, people that are singing there, but you're not going to be able to sing there anymore because it's going to be used every single Sunday, because we're not going to wait for the quarter or the half year to do the baptism on the beach. I believe that can happen when we take seriously the call and the mission that Jesus has given us to reach out to the lost. They're right around you. They could be in your family. They're in your neighborhood. They're who you're working with. But are they important to you? Well, they are very important to the leadership and to the staff and to the leaders. Very important. And I believe God is going to bless. God is going to bless that. And he's going to bring us screaming infants in this body that are going to need to be taken care of. But you know what I love about lost people getting saved? You know who their friends are? Lost people. And that's what makes a church exciting and alive, because those folks start coming into this body. That is exciting, and we see that. And once those folks start coming to Christ, then they're helping their other folks come to Christ. And then we do believe that revival will take place here in Venice Bible Church. How much money? 425 or 475 or 489. How much money is needed for the body of Venice Bible Church to go out and make disciples? How much money is needed for the body of Venice Bible Church to take seriously the call that God has given you and me to go make disciples as we're going. It doesn't take a lot, okay? But what it takes is but how much does it cost us individually? It costs us everything. So vision-wise, I just want to help you see the vision of where we're going. We see everyone in this body ministering purposely to a lost friend. But you may say, I may not have a lost friend. Well, then make one. Make a friend. I mean, not make a lost friend. Yeah, make one. We see everyone intentionally relating one with another in here, discipling and encouraging and mentoring one another and growing. We see everyone in this body involved in a small home group where we can, pardon the expression, just sort of show our flaws and our errors. And I called it dirty underwear. But you know that you're loved by them and they help each other grow. And of course, we see everyone then coming to the large congregation here Sunday morning and celebrating what God is doing. When that happens, revival will come and it will be absolutely exciting. And I believe it is going to happen. Amen. So, Bob, you can close us in prayer.
First, I'll open the floor for any other questions. No questions? Hey, we did a good job. Okay. All right. Okay. If there's no objections, we'll close the meeting then. And I'll conclude with prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for your wisdom. We thank you for your guidance. Please watch over us and continue to lead us as we turn everything over to you. This is all yours. We're just trying to be good stewards of what you've provided for us. Please bless us as we go about this week and protect us and bring us all back next week in a good celebration. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Thank you.